manifesting all around us. We drive down the streets, we see these bizarre, aberrant, kind of militarized antenna everywhere in the last few years. Increasingly, we look at these things and think, oh, wow, it must be national security, it must be the NS, must be... Well, we shouldn't even be thinking that. We, as natural-born men and women of the living soil, should be demanding to know what is that godless-looking piece of technology in the farm, on the side of the street, outside my school, my office, my home.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I have with me Sacha Stone. He established Humanitad 1999 and founded New Earth Project. It's a self-determined community about sustainability and sovereignty over your life, your energy that's on this planet. Also, documentary filmmaker, and this is why we're here today talking about 5G. So many of you heard about it. I was really unaware of what was going on with 5G until I attended Alternative View 10 in just a bit outside of London there in May with Ian Crane. Also, the documentary film that Sacha has already produced about this, the 5G apocalypse. Now, us in the United States, including myself, I was very unaware of what's going on. After learning much more about it, I came to the conclusion that this is what they're going to use as a frequency control weapon to, let's say, control the masses when there's food riots during this Grand Solar Minimum. Now, that's my take on it, but Sacha has a whole different energy, literally vibrational frequency of what's inside this grid that's planned for the rollout planet-wide, well, at least in the Western nations, as well as how they're going to use actual frequency and vibration for, I guess, other alternative means, and I'll leave it at that. But that's the reason I wanted to bring Sacha today on, to give us a little more awareness. You know, I've done a couple of videos already on 5G, and even though I've done those, there were a lot of people with a lot of questions. So I thought I would bring somebody here who, in my opinion, is at the very top echelon on this planet to explain it. He's already produced videos about it, a full-length documentary movie. Again, that is 5G Apocalypse. You can find that up on YouTube and several other sites across the planet. And this 5G awareness is my main priority right now. They're going to use it against us in the coming future here. So Sacha, thank you so much for joining me today, and the floor is yours.
A great pleasure, David. Thank you. In the first instance, I need to caveat by saying I'm not an expert on 5G, but thank you for that delightful intro. I would love to be an expert on 5G, and I think I have a fairly good and somewhat comprehensive take on the spectrum of what it might represent and the threat that it might represent to us, and I'm happy to speak to that. But I don't want to be confused as being an expert on the subject, on frequency, light, and all the rest of it. There are scientific and engineering minds out there far, far greater than my own. I also will say that I heard about the solar minimum reminded to me a few days ago by Ian Crane at an event that we did together here in London, which was, interestingly enough, a packed hall on a Saturday night. I would never have expected that. Never. I got off a plane, went to the gig thinking maybe 24 people might have turned up. It was standing room only in London on a Saturday night. That to me is seismic, because that to me says that Middle England and Middle America are waking up to the existential threat of 5G. It's almost as though it's a morphogenetic trigger that is activating people all around the world into thinking, hang about, there really is a threshold event that is manifesting around us, a cloak, a shroud of technocracy and of covert control and manipulation that is manifesting all around us. We drive down the streets, we see these bizarre, aberrant, kind of militarized antenna everywhere in the last few years. Increasingly, we look at these things and think, oh, wow, it must be national security, it must be the NS, must be... Well, we shouldn't even be thinking that. We, as natural-born men and women of the living soil, should be demanding to know what is that godless-looking piece of technology in the farm, on the side of the street, outside my school, my office, my home? We need to know this stuff, and we need to absolutely terminate this encroachment of technocracy into the natural-born world. So to me, the 5G threat is a meme. I think it is diabolical in its origin, in its genesis. I do think it is about meta surveillance, control, manipulation of everything all at the same time. I absolutely do believe that this was dreamt up in the most egregious way by sinister forces who have been at work for a very long time, engineering the war and the disease and the poverty which proliferates our world and which constructs the three-legged stool of our civilization. So I'm in no doubt in my own mind about how nefarious and how godless this 5G construct is. But where it takes us is more important, meaning to say, if we acknowledge that it is an existential threat that is aligning and cohering the unified focus, the collective focus of Homo sapien in the year 2019, 2020, then that is a very good thing. Because the one thing we are required to do at this time in our evolutionary spiral is to unify our focus around a singularity issue and to begin to awaken from the dream spell that has tiptoed into our gestalt, into our zeitgeist over the last couple of thousand years. So I would suggest 5G is arguably a flashpoint or a trigger for ascension, for an evolutionary upgrade, a meta-cultural, meta-intellectual, meta-spiritual upgrade of humanity, every bit as much as it is intended as a downgrade, as a control and harvest technology. But I think the point is we need to be the determining factor. We need to decide for ourselves, jointly and severally, what are we going to do about this now that we've become awakened to what this threat appears to be and appears to represent. So I think it invites a far bigger narrative than a reactive and reductive a notion that it's going to be sending weaponized frequencies into molecules in our body and bringing about auto-destruct. Yeah, that's part of it. The real story is so much better than that, in my view. And we need to look at the world and life and reality with a different sense of the dynamic, the geometry of unfoldment of real reality, as opposed to the informed AI, MacBook, iPhone, billboard reality, which is an interposed reality of false light and idolatry that proliferates all around the world. You need to step away from that false identification into a real reality, a real identification with reality. And then we see the beauty in the geometry of things like 5G, agrochemical crimes, pharmaceutical crimes. They are all part of the same mythos, which is to say, they all represent a systemic attempt to artificialize Homo sapiens sapien, to commandeer the life force of humanity, and by extension, Gaia, the planet, the entire crystalline, throbbing, sentient planet Earth in this quadrant of the multiverse. This is an attempt at the metadimensional level to sequester, commandeer, and harvest life force, prana, chi. Absolutely. You really have to ultimately get to that space in your comprehension. And then once you're there, you recognize that I am the determining factor of the outcome. We are, you and I are, which is why I welcome this conversation, David, because I'm hoping that these kind of conversations can trigger that flame of consciousness, that flame of sovereignty, that flame of resistance against the artifice of our reality that is being engineered for us. By what? By government, by wrong culture, by the socially engineered cultural value set, which is defunct, is lacking in spirit, lacking in fire, lacking in empathy. So again, it comes back down to you and me, and let's talk about 5G. But from that, in that context, it's not about a them and us. It's about an us and us. It's about a we and we. It's about a me and me, and about what I have permissioned generationally to allow this extent and degree of godless tyranny to co-opt this plane of existence. Now, what am I going to do about it? And I know what I can do about it, because what I can do about it is rewrite the source code, affirmation, creative expansion. These are the things we need to be looking at. Taking back the power in that sense, stepping into the flame of sovereignty, which is our true Godhead. That's the true Christ consciousness. That is what the mystical traditions of the good Christian faith has been inviting us to do for thousands of years. We haven't bloody listened. We haven't paid attention because we're all still Molokite worshipping, Baphomet worshipping citizens of the statutes of the Caesars of Rome. And we are the ones permissioning that. We are the ones paying the coin to Caesar. We are the ones feeding the Molokite flame. And when we choose to step away from it is when the difference comes about. And that, my friend, is going to be instantaneous. It's not going to be something which takes generations to reverse engineer. It's going to be instantaneous. In the same way that this technology here plugged into my telephone, into my wall, that technology is what can and will remediate frequencies. The harmful ionized and non-ionized frequencies that we're rightly so afraid of. We have technological capacitance to defeat and counterpoint these egregious technologies that are attacking the human biome and the planetary biome. But we shouldn't be engaged in technological solutions. We need to engage the highest technological solution available to us, which is the actualization and the activation of our consciousness. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I could jump in there as well. You know, through my research that I'm doing now on this changes in our sun, you hit it on the head. We're going back to the Roman Empire, the beginnings, 2,000 years ago. Well, as it looks right now, some of these changes in the sun energetically are pushing us back 3,500 years, 4,000 years. Preceding that, what was allowed that vibration of this dense medium to set in these systems that we've been kowtowing to for all these thousands of years. Well, whether you like it or not, or whether the people trying to construct our societies like it or not, there is a full-on energy wave coming through this part of our spiral arm of the galaxy. And you've noticed the awakening of so many people right now. That's not by accident. That's not them watching more YouTube videos. That is intuitively in our DNA, the activation that we're starting to see. And as we move forward down this path of more changes in our sun, more changes in other star systems close to us, more changes in solar systems, we're going to start to see the shaking off of reigns of things that have been with us for thousands of years. When we come into these multi-millennial cycles, it's here again. Now, I'm not really sure if they're trying to use the technology to still lock us into place and keep us in something vibrationally that's going to rise, that they're trying to artificially lock in a vibration and keep us in this denser realm. But as we move forward, you know, everybody seems to be waking up on this planet. It just seems to be a natural state of being, this awareness where everybody's questioning almost every old system that's not conducive for us, spiritually, mentally, physically, health-wise, and everything in between. If it harms us as a spiritual body, everybody's questioning it now. And it seems to be just intuitive. And as we move down this road, you know, 5G fits in here greatly. I think, like you said, it could be either for enlightenment or more imprisonment of our energy field. So I'm going to leave it at that as well.
Okay. In the first instance, I'd like to just argue the fact that it is not them and us again, and we've got to police our ideas. We have to police our thoughts and our words, or we fall back into dream spell and into that cognitive dissonance simply by the use of the spells in the words. It is not them doing it to us. Once I recognize that the they I'm referring to, the Babylonian priesthood, the Yaldabaoth emissaries, the Vatican scions, all of this evil and corrupted, non-sentient, non-human, lower astral interventionalism, all of that stuff, when I recognize that that stuff, the lower reaches of hell, in fact, no, the furthest recesses of hell are in point of fact the imaginings which have manifested in the void, but only by virtue of the absence of consciousness within you and I, only by virtue of the abnegated life force, prana, chi, which we have collectively, generationally, civilizationally, have given up to the void and not utilized. So when we come into this world and we have a particular life force, a quota of life force, we can choose. This is where will comes in, to either make use of that life force in a creative, affirmative way, which is in congruence with nature's codes and which manifests art, beauty, and consciousness in this world. Or conversely, we can choose to become addicted to our appetites. We can choose to become degraded and part of the degradation of the cycle that we're born into, and give up that life force and not make use of it. And it literally hemorrhages into the lower astral realms. And you take that, compound that factor by billions of souls over millions of years, what have you got? You have ideated into the void the very hell, the very devil, the very Yaldabaoth, the very creature that then devours us, or we believe is devouring us. In the same way that we're manifesting the Jehovahs and the Yahwehs, which are also aspects of the Yaldabaoth, aspects of the lower astral realm, which we have ideated into the God, the angry, jealous gods. We're now at an extraordinary threshold, as you rightly say, David, where we are being bombarded by a very unique vibral photon band. And that vibral light of photon band that is impacting our quadrant of the galaxy right now and sweeping through our entire solar system and impregnating every atom, every cell, every molecule on the surface and within the earth itself. That is grace. By definition, that is grace incarnate. That is the Godhead. That is the Christ consciousness, the Buddha consciousness, the Krishna consciousness emerging. That is the flame, the actualization of Homo sapiens sapien when we move into our divinity, provided we are equal to it, provided when that photon band hits us every grand procession of the equinox or every half cycle of the grand procession of the equinox, if we are equal to that galactic audit that is coming in and sweeping us and lighting us from the inside, then we can move into the spiral upgrade. If we are not equal to it, Noah and the ark becomes the story. The great deluge, another planetary reset occurs. You know, that is written in to the process of the evolution of planets at the level of consciousness, and everything is consciousness. Every rock, every stone, every blade of grass, every molecule of water is conscious. When we get that, we really get the story. And you're right to talk in terms of the interposition of the diabolical elements against the human family, perfectly highlighted by the 5G threat, because that is what it's intended to be. But it's more than that. As I said, it's an attempt to commandeer, take over the entire plane of existence. Why? For the good reason that this planet, Earth, Tara, is the Christos, is the cross, is the living flame. This is we are the code and the key to ascension, not just for ourselves. We contain the codes within the human DNA. That's the Homo sapiens sapien aspect of the human cosmogenesis story. We are the Atman. We are the Jacob's ladder. We are the Holy Grail. We are the key to the ascension process, the code. And all of these lower realms of expression, some of them very advanced technologically, in distant star systems, know full well, why are they attracted to Earth, to Tara? Why have they been attracted to us for hundreds of millions of years? Don't believe the history books. We are ancient, very ancient. For the good reason that this blue pearl, this extraordinary plane of existence that you and I embody, and we are the issue of that pearl. We are the living flame. We are the code of ascension for all of these 3D temporal intelligences in this quadrant of the universe. So we take preeminence in the story of the evolution, not just of ourselves and this planet, but of this galaxy, and in point of fact, this aspect of the universe. So we are vital. We are central command. And that is why the 5G threat is there, because it is an archonic attempt to vicariously live through the planet, live through the human DNA. So yes, distant star systems and intelligences, quite nefarious by instinct and egregious and malevolent by instinct, are attempting to vicariously live through the life force of humanity for another cycle. God knows they've done it for the last Atlantean cycle. And we have not escaped the Atlantean light yet. We are still suffused with the Atlantean light. My God, this light bulb here in this lamp is by definition still harnessing Atlantean light. We have not moved in to the vibral light fully, but we are in process. It's underway. You and I, as the living men and women of the living soil, are the capacitors for whether or not that vibral light moves over and overtakes the Atlantean mythos or not. Now, in my view, it's already happened. In my studied view, we already passed that threshold in 2008, and we are well on the way to dry land. Now, it's just a process of cleaning up the detritus, of moving into that new earth with as much boldness and as much dynamism, as much integrity as we can muster individually.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, because what I envision is this greatest opportunity in human history and the greatest opportunity to work together moving forward, because there's going to be so many changes. Literally changes we haven't seen in thousands of years are at our doorstep right now, climatically, food production wise, but at the same time, your ability to come up with new ideas. I mean, just the general population to start living a new lifestyle that's completely breaks away from the old molds that, well, we've agreed to it. Like you said, if enough people would say no, have you always noticed that in history, as soon as enough people start to say no, that idea is relegated to the dustbin of history. We've seen it time and time again,
right,
through multiple cultures, and it is our choice of what we believe. But moving forward with this, it is a chance to start a new planet here. It's a chance to start an entirely new existence of the way we think about money, we think about health, energy, free energy devices, and everything in between. And I do believe that there's going to be more good coming out of this. You know, a lot of people are trying to lock you into that, oh, you're going to be eating your next door neighbor because you're going to be so hungry. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's going to be the complete opposite, where we're going to start to get together and have so many solutions that we never even thought we could think about before come in play, put those into the real world, and then it's going to be some completely type of, I would say, a raised vibration existence where we won't need, I think, as much physical needs for our body, because literally the vibration will be higher, where you might not need as much food or as much water or as much sleep.
That's
healthier in different ways. And I really believe this is the catalyst that the cycles of the sun are taking us through. And just one last thing about the science here. When you're looking behind, they have like 1,800 stars so far that this wave has swept through. And they're looking at it on telescopes. And as this wave is passing, they're watching these suns go red, 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 red. Like the energetic changes are well seen right now. And this wave is at us. And again, you know, you can look at it in a couple of ways. If it's not easily explainable, people might be scared. There's a lot of things the science body is not really forthcoming right now with us living here on this planet. But the tremendous opportunity, I do believe it's the biggest opportunity in human history that's on our doorstep at the moment. And as we come through these yuga cycles, or the galactic cross, where we're hitting on that same point again, there's just natural changes, energetic changes and spiritual changes, and it's all intertwined. And it is truly our opinion, our choice of how we want to move forward in this. And I'm so hopeful for this time. This is the message I'm trying to bring during, using my videos and explaining the science and the cycles is it's a hopeful time. We don't have to be scared going into it. It's occurred so many times before. And it seems when it does occur, we get these giant leaps in terms of evolution, in terms of science, technology, invention, and so many other things that, we stretch back hundreds of years, that's minimal. Thousands of years, that's minimal. I agree. I think our species is more like 21 million years old, and they really kind of get us pushed back into the Sumerians, kind of lock us in that 8,000 year or something further back. Michael Tellinger goes into the gold mining down in South Africa. They really kind of lock us in that 500,000, 400,000 year period. Like, we discovered it all. Well, really, that's not the case. Look back 21 million years and start to see how many cycles that would entail and how many times we've been upgraded and how many times we've gone through this cycle and circling around to get to this point again. But I think with all the tech we have and sharing all the information, I don't know when maybe the last time technologically we had this much consciousness swirling around the planet of interconnected ideas at your fingertips daily. I'm not sure, but went on a little rant there. Sorry, back to 5G.
Just kind of forgetting the fact that all of that technological and vertical integration of technology is moot. It all goes back to the capacitance of the human being, the living technology, the living temple, this creature here, what's happening here, what's happening here, what's happening here, what's happening here. That is the technology. That's the grail. There's Giza pyramid. There's your ziggurat. There's all of the stuff folded in to here and now. So all of that extraneous expression of technological advancement of building ziggurats and temples and sending rockets to the moon and all of that stuff is moot because we have the multidimensional capacitance to surf reality and surf dimensions and project plasma through the quantum without any of that extraneous mechanical nonsense. That's the point, that's the fact. And you're right to say we're living in a world proliferated by technology at every turn. But all that tells me is that we're still playing with Atlantean fire. We have not stepped into the flame, the Atman, which is this. You're looking at it. So, yeah, I'm still arguing for a distinction between the living and the dead. The technology is dead in that sense, meaning to say, in our heightened state of consciousness, you and I would be communicating by projecting our plasma, our life force, and connecting with one another telepathically in full 3D, in fact, in full 5D, we would be able to interact and engage in much the same way that the minute you drop dead, provided you're in some harmonic resonance with the universal law of one, you will move into that space-time, that continuum which is absent of space-time, should I say, and enter into your 5D holonomic capacity to engage and recall and play and love with many soul streams that you've experienced in different incarnations. So all of that capacitance, you and I, born into the 3D temporal realm, are required to remember that capacitance of ours and then to ultimately anchor those patterns of perfection into this 3D world precisely in order to upgrade this 3D world into its dimensional upgrades, so to speak. And in so doing, we take those Draco reptilians and Syrians and Arcturians with us, because we are connected to all of those cosmogenesis civilizations. We bring them all into the Jacob's ladder. So we are acting as the Bodhisattva, as the Christ, as the Messiah, as the Savior, or the transcendent principle of all that exists in the temporal universe is anchored to you and I here now. How much more divine or majestic or empowered could we possibly be? But we have to know it to activate it.
Yeah, that's the whole key there, is understanding the power that you really have once you start to try to think about using thought to create reality around you, or actually take that thought to make physical matter move.